Alright, everybody, this is Nash here, and today we're going to quickly go over the Iowa State game and what we learned from that. We're also going to be talking about the upcoming Oklahoma State game, looking at some statistics, comparing them to Texas and the past. I've had the opposing offense next to the Texas defense, and then the Texas defense next to the opposing offense. Well, I've switched it around. It's the opposing offense next to the Texas offense, so we can see how they stack up side by side. But all the relevant things that you would want to see, so the rushing defense and the rushing offense, those are all on the same page. You'll see in just a minute. But without further ado, if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below how you're feeling about this Oklahoma State game. Now first, let's just kind of look at a little bit of what we learned from Iowa State. And one of the biggest things that Texas fans learned that was flooding all over Twitter was people were talking about how important Ryan Watts was to this Texas defense. And I'm so glad everybody sees it now. And if you've been watching my videos and you've been listening to this channel, you already knew that Ryan Watts was very important to this Texas defense. I mean, I was saying how, yes, he does technically have some mistakes, but he has mistakes because he's out there so frequently. Now, I'm not saying I was smart and saying that I knew that he was out there so frequently because, there was nobody else out there that could really do what he's doing for us. I just knew, hey, more opportunities to mess up, and he hasn't messed up that often. So more often than not, he's doing a good job out there. He's limiting these teams, limiting explosive plays. And you'll see my guy Nino Corner Sports. Go follow him on YouTube, Twitter, all of his socials. He had a great thing showing Ryan Watts explosive plays. Now, I'm pretty sure right here he's counting explosive plays as 20-plus yards. And I had the 20-plus yards right here for all of college football right now. Before Iowa State, we were averaging 3.16 explosive plays per game. We had 6 total versus Iowa State. That's double what we're expecting per game. And 5 of those came from after Ryan Watts left the field. So, you can see with that, yes, it is a smaller sample size because it's just one game, but Ryan Watts is huge for this defense. And something that was not shown in the box score that I just showed earlier, Ryan Watts was second on the team in tackles with 7 total. And he left the game early. I mean, he is an important member of this Texas defense, and so is Deshaun Jameson, so is Anthony Cook. You're about to see a stat on why Anthony Cook is such an important part of this Texas defense. So if you go to Joel Klatt, 30-plus yard explosive plays. 20-plus and 30-plus yard plays, these are the plays that score. You saw it with Noel. These are the plays that you're just not, it's done. Rarely are you going to have a 30-plus yard play and it doesn't score. A big reason why we have not had a lot of 30-plus yard plays this year against Texas is Anthony Cook and Jaron Thompson as well. But more so Anthony Cook, he's usually the guy hanging back. So these defensive backs, they've been huge for us in limiting explosive plays, and we want them to stay healthy. What I'm about to say is probably going to come off as pretty cliche and cringe, but to me, this Texas team, the thing that we learned the most from Iowa State, and the thing that we've learned the most and we've seen the most from this team this year so far, is what they've been wearing all offseason. And on the back of that shirt says protect the team. We've seen fight from this Texas team. This Texas team is out there, game in and game out. Even in the losses, to both of our losses that we've had, you cannot say that this Texas team did not fight. Texas Tech, the fact that we even tied up the game at the end, it sounds crazy to think that we had a double-digit lead again, and then to say that the fact that we tied a game like that is crazy. That's pretty bad. But you cannot question this team's fight. And they showed it versus Iowa State. But That, to me, was the biggest thing that we learned about this Texas team. Now, going into the Oklahoma State game, unfortunately, Oklahoma State's banged up. This has been a common theme against Texas's opponents, where there's somebody, somewhere, some way that's banged up. And at first, it was like, okay, Brendan Ewers, the dude's declaring for the draft, 6 games out before the season's over. Come on now, what is this, right? But then you see the details coming out, and you see how much fans are supporting him and how much it is actually a real thing that he's dealing with, and man, that sucks. I mean, that's probably got to be a very hard decision to have played your last college game and then go, yeah, that's my last college game that I'm never going to suit up in college ever again. Whether pro works out or not, it's done. So, I mean, that's got to be a hard decision for him. I hope he can get back and, get to 100% and do something in the league. I mean, we're rooting for these guys. Doesn't matter what school they went to, unless they went to Oklahoma. It's just point blank simple. 49-0. Now, Mike Gundy is pulling the Steve Sarkisian week 3 to week 5 trick of, well, he may be practicing, he may not be. He may be playing, he may not be. Who knows? So, we have no real word on whether Spencer Sanders is going to play, but if he does play, he's going to be banged up a little bit. So, we're not getting this Oklahoma State team at their full potential. But going into the matchup now, and before I go any further into this, they're going to say Oklahoma State has played a harder schedule than we have. They're going to say outside of Alabama, we haven't really played anybody. And while, yes, that is kind of true a little bit, we've played a lot of guys in between what FPI would put in the 30 range and the 60 range. We put a lot in there. We had one game versus a ULM who's like 100th in the nation right now in FPI. But so is Central Michigan. They're right next to ULM at the FPI. Arizona State is right next to UTSA in the FPI. Baylor and TCU, yeah, pretty good opponents that they had to play. They played a 16th ranked Baylor at the time, and then that's not an FPI ranking, that's a poll ranking. And then they played the 13th ranked TCU last week and got a loss there. And then they played Texas Tech, the one similar opponent that we've had. Now, they did beat Texas Tech and they handled their business, so credit where credit's due on that one. But, even if you toss out the Alabama game, I mean, are we really... Arkansas Pine Bluff is an FCS school. I mean, let's not... Outside of having one game with Baylor, I mean, I guess... Really, it's basically you could compare the schedules side by side with each other up until you get to Baylor, West Virginia, and Oklahoma. It would be Baylor for them and West Virginia and Oklahoma for us. That's basically, you can compare every other game almost side by side. Now that we've got that out of the way, I don't want to hear any excuses about, their strength of schedule. They played a harder schedule. A little bit. Barely. But this is where I think the biggest advantage lies for Texas is in the Oklahoma State versus Texas defense. Right here. Oklahoma State has had a statistically poor defense this year, allowing 478 point yards per game on average, 32 points per game on average. Points per play isn't amazing. Opponent yards per play isn't amazing either. 2 plays, you're averaging a first down right there. Now, where they are amazing is the third down conversion percentage. That is great. I would do some crimes for that. That's just a joke, but yeah. There's a lot of people that would do some dirty things to get to see their team performing with the 27% opposing team third down conversion percentage. And I think a lot of Texas fans might be included in that group. Now, fourth down conversion is pretty similar, but they do have the slight edge. And then the opponent red zone scoring percentage, we're doing a great job of that. I mean, once again, this is the Pete Kwiatkowski offense, or defense, I mean. You limit explosive plays, and then when they get into the 20-yard, so you're saying, okay, we'll give it to you. We'll give you all these plays under 20 yards. Fine. Who cares? Take them. But as soon as you get in that red zone, we're going to stiffen up, and you're not going to get anything outside of a field goal or a failed conversion on us. That's the mentality with this defense, and it's working for the most part. So, love to see it continue. Want to see that red zone scoring percentage keep going down further and keep those explosive plays limited. Going to need Ryan Watts for that, as we just learned. But moving on to the offense. This should be a fun game on the offensive side. I mean, yards per game, we're both sitting right in the same area, same neighborhood. I mean, we're living on the same street when we're talking about the yards per game. Nevertheless, they do edge us out just a little bit in yards per game, and then they beat us on points per game. But if you look at yards per play and points per play, they're doing a lot more volume, but they're having less success on the volume. Whereas Texas, I mean, the yards per play is a complete night and day difference. Like, it's one of those things that doesn't sound like 1.1 is a lot, but it's like talking about in a race when a guy finishes 1 second behind when they're racing cars. Now, 1.1 yards per play, I mean, that, like, when you're talking about it at the end of the day, that's saying if Texas and Oklahoma State were to run 60 plays in this game and their yards per play is right on exactly what happens in the game, Texas finishes with 60 more yards of offense as opposed to Oklahoma State. And this was something I was actually really surprised to see with Oklahoma State. Their third down conversion percentage is poor. I mean, it is bad. 37%, sub 40% it's not good. They're not getting a lot of first downs. So this is not a team that we want to see Texas having to stay on the field with. This is a team that we want to see Texas getting off the field, shoving them off the field, and saying, stay on the sideline, watch Bijan Robinson, watch Roschon Johnson, tear your team up. Now, I mentioned about our opponent red zone scoring percentage. It's the top 30 in the nation. Well, their red zone scoring percentage is 8th in the nation, good for top 10. So this should be a very good matchup when it gets down to the red zone. Like, this should be a battle. But then again, if they're missing Spencer Sanders, I don't know if you can say that. Now here, again, I've grayed out the areas that have all the rush play percentage, rushes per game, but you can still see that. But this is where we should really start to, and I said it earlier with the defense, where we should really start to see the separation. Because if our defense can keep their offense off the field, and I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but if we can force those third down conversion percentages to be more in favor for us, we can force them to have to watch and really experience Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson rushing the rock. And we had 5.2 yards per rush going into last week's game. It's gone down a little bit. That's mostly because of sacks from Quinn Ewers. And in the college world, I don't know why they count sacks negative for rushing yards. In the pro league, they count it for against your passing yards, but that's neither here nor there. Different video. The Texas defense, still top 25 rush defense. I mean, yes, we're allowing a lot more, not a lot more. Now, yes, we're allowing more rush yards than a top 25 defense. We're number 31 in the nation. But still, this is a good rush defense that we're seeing. Now, moving on to the pass. This is This is fun. I mean, you see it right here. These explosive pass plays, they don't happen often. Now, yes, they did have a few. They had, and if you're talking about 20-plus yard pass plays, but most of those came after Ryan Watts was off the field. Now, if we can force them to where they say, okay, hey, all we're taking is the middle of the field, all we're taking is the intermediate level throws, those are actually the throws that Spencer Sanders has been struggling on. So if Ryan Watts can stay healthy, if we can get Deshaun Jameson, if we can have a great game from those guys, man, this is where this Texas defense, I think, is what separates the two teams. You know, we're talking about two really good offenses going up against a team with a bad defense, and not a bad defense, but not a great defense, and then a team with a good defense, not a great defense, but a good one. And then on the offense, I was really expecting different, because you're seeing Oklahoma State. I go back to it. Their offense, points per game, number 7, yards per game, number 31, points per play, 17th. Okay, well, wow. Okay, well, they must have a great rushing attack. Okay, 3.7 yards per rush, 153 yards per game. Okay, that's not amazing. So their passing has to be amazing, right? Wrong. I mean, wrong. 56% completion percentage. That's bad. I'm a Spencer Sanders fan, and that's bad. 7.5 yards per pass. That's not horrible. That's not great. That's not good. That's not bad. That's just right in the middle. Pass yards per game, that's okay. That's pretty good. Interceptions thrown, not that bad. We just edge them out a little bit. QB sack. This is another thing is, per the statistics, this is not going to be a game that results in a bunch of sacks. Because these are both teams that don't sack quarterbacks a lot, and then these are both offenses that don't let up sacks a lot. But if we get to see their quarterback on the ground a lot, that should be a good thing. That should mean something good for the Texas offense or Texas defense. But yeah, man, this really surprised me. And this is where I've said it probably 3 times by now, but this is where I think the advantage is for Texas. Their pass offense is, the statistics say it's putrid, okay? I don't want to say they're that bad, but this was my prediction with Spencer Sanders up there. But if we get Ryan Watts healthy, if we have all of our DBs stay healthy, even if they have Sanders healthy, this is my official prediction. Got the Longhorns winning. Hook 'em!